everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. And a fine Balls Big Wednesday to you and yours. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything, but if you do, we got you covered. We'll post the show, all 3 hours of it, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. If you were to miss anything, go back, get caught up at your leisure. Limited commercial interruption when you do, thanks to our great sponsor, CarltonDean.com. He and the fine folks at SVN teaching you ways to make money in commercial real estate. That's a good thing. You can email the show if you want, jcs at 979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter at JCameronShow, WTSM app, good for your mobile devices. And if you want to watch on YouTube, you can go to YouTube, type in ESPN Tallahassee, and you'll be able to watch the show live. Good stuff.
So impressive how smooth it is if you get in there last second and sit down and put the headset on. And people would never know.
I've been doing it for a long time, man.
Well, some days you're there 5 minutes ahead of time and you already got the cans on and you're ready to go. You're locked in.
For the intro, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Consistency.
but people are going to get the wrong idea. Like they're thinking I'm walking through this door at work at 2:59 and going through. No, you're talking about when I actually enter the studio and start the show. Yeah. Normally, I try to avoid what we just did.
But you do it so smooth. I mean,
well, thank you. I was trying to make a point before we came in here, and I hadn't finished making my point, and I could hear the Who playing, and I could see you go into producer mode, which is we go from friendly conversation to, my man, the music is playing. I've pressed the buttons. You need to go before the mic and introduce the show. And I know in my head, because you know how you get a tacit understanding of things when you do it long enough, and I know exactly how long I have from the start of the music that I can put on the cans, and depending on the refrain in the song, I know which guitar strum he's on. Is it the penultimate, or is it the one for me to go? And so I know immediately as soon as I get in there.
See, but in my mind, I'm thinking that calculating the amount of time it takes to open this door, close the other one, and walk it, and it's getting close.
And I got to put the headset on.
It is close, yeah. We are up against it.
You were like, yo, my man, the music is playing.
It's better than the old days, though, when, if you were on the other side of the hallway at the old place.
Sprint down the hall.
In the HR area, yeah, or the break room with all the mail and all that kind of stuff.
That was always funny because they'd open the door and be like, yo, music. Yeah. That's Molar yelling, before you were producing, it would be Molar yelling, yo, you just crank open.
I remember one time it was I was an intern and I'm yelling and there's no response, and it was the 5 o'clock, so Radio Clash is playing, and I mean people probably got a minute and a half of it because for whatever reason you couldn't hear me. So
I just carried on my conversation.
Oh God, yeah, brazenly, and
let this be known out there if you didn't know already. I like to chit chat. I'm a bit of a talker.
So I sprint down the hallway looking around. I ask Randy, the engineer, have you seen Jeff? He goes, no.
He's wandering around somewhere.
He should be on right now. I'm like, yeah, Randy, I'm producing the show. And then I find you. I'm like, dude, the music's playing. You're like, really? It's been playing for minutes. Hurry.
I think I said something like, at least it's a great song. That's the only thing you can do at that point. No, I've come in out of breath before. I've actually started shows where for whatever reason I was under the weather, and right as the show was starting, I thought, I could get sick. I've done segments where I've said hello, come on the air, and thought I'm on the verge of puking, which is bizarre, but it can happen. That's the thing with live radio. That's the thing with being on the air. And if you're sick at the office and you're not in radio, you can kind of hide it. You can make your way down to the bathroom. You can take some Tums and kind of just rest a little bit or something. But when you're on, you're on. Yeah, no, only a few of those situations. Hey, you know what? Listen, I know tonight's the NBA Finals, and we're kind of in between because we don't get to start with the Super Regional till Saturday. And, I don't know that I want to talk all that much about the NBA Finals. They've really been completely uninteresting. There just hasn't been enough there. And this coincides, today does, this middle of the week hump day show, with the fact that I did today something fun. I got together with the guys from Bama Insider and from warchant.com. And so Gene wanted me to host a series of shows. The kind of early season look out at the Florida State-Bama game. By the way, it hit me. We did that this morning. We did these shows, and they're going to run in the coming weeks on both Bama Insider and War Chant. And so, you got to prepare for those shows. And I knew it was coming, and I was kind of excited to do it because when you do that, you really start to delve into depth charts and numbers, and you start reading more and more, and you get your head locked in around this game.
How was it set up, though? Because that's a lot of people.
Well, they weren't all there. We did I was the one constant.
I see.
Well, it's true. And sometimes Ira represented War Chant, Ryan Clark represented War Chant, and Gene Williams represented War Chant. And we did 7 or 8 of these 8-minute type segments. And then the two guys from Bama Insider, Kyle Henderson and also Tony Sakalis. Both good guys, both knowledgeable guys that run that side over there. They came into town. We set up in the studio, and we did, and Ryan Kelly produced or filmed it and did that and all that. So it was fun. But, you start comparing notes from spring games because now you get two guys that were at Bama spring game and that understand the depth chart and know which positions are being vied for and how that competition's going or went or was, where it stood at the end of spring. Which guys missed spring. Of course, we all have an intimate understanding of all the guys that missed spring for Florida State, and they're picking our brains about those position battles. What I discovered, a couple things here, is, first of all, when you think about the magnitude of this opener, which is why there's already a buzz in June or at the end of May. We were talking about how we felt already the look ahead was in play, not just because we wanted it to as talk show hosts, which you do. The dead of summer is the dead of summer. This is when people in this business begin to take some time off, when the NBA finals wind down. College baseball doesn't carry the day across the country, so those guys are already checked out, especially since this has been a completely disinteresting postseason in the NBA. And if, by the way, Golden State wins tonight, who's watching Game 4? Seriously, who's watching? Golden State fans. Yeah, so you'll be done. You'll be checked out. All of us will be. That's it. By the way, nicely done on the anniversary of the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup.
2004, man. Yeah. Section 122. I was there.
The good thing about that? I was not yet engaged to my wife, but we were dating, and we were watching every one of those games. Mutual friend of ours, Brian Willard, would come over and others, and we would watch those games locked in. She knew I was a huge Lightning fan, and she liked hockey. That was the first of the sports that I was able to convince her to kind of watch. Baseball was second. And she's a Florida State grad, and so she kind of paid attention to Florida State football, but she's not fervent like you and me and all that. So I was appalled at her television. I just thought this gives television a bad name. This is embarrassing. I mean, you have a job, you have means. There's no reason for this to exist in your living room.
Rabbit ears?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was like this small little. It was just it was awesome. I'm angry thinking about it. So when we were dating, I would go. She would have parties and stuff, and I would go over and she had this deck that we would set up the keg or whatever we were doing, and people would come over, and we had these house parties. But the TV was just, it was like it was you couldn't really watch it. It was crazy. And so I told her as we were becoming more of an item, clearly we were focused on our relationship. I said, listen, we were just sitting around the one day watching that piece of crap television. I was trying to watch a baseball game or something. I was like, and we were laying on the couch, and I go, listen, this isn't going to get it done. We're going to have to get rid of this. And so she said, well, I don't really watch all that much TV. And I said, well, good on you, and I'm proud of you for that, but I do, and that can't happen. We need a new television.
So who paid for it?
Well, we went in together on that, but I did. Okay, so she agreed to a certain level, and then I said, nope, if we're going to do it, we've got to do it right, so I paid the extra. It's like, I don't care how high our electric bill is. I believe the house should be cold, almost at all times. So I'm willing to pay a little extra for that electric bill. I'll pay the extra penny for that. I'll go in on that to keep it cool. Well, that's just all before we got married. Now that we're married, everything's pooled. It doesn't really matter. You get it. It just comes out of there. And she resentfully says, well, if we didn't have to have a 75-inch television. Anyhow, so the point is, I bought a bigger television specifically for the Stanley Cup playoffs. and to watch the Lightning win the championship.
was
And
one
I'm
of-
glad I damn did, and she was happy I did too because she got into it right then and there.
It was one of those. Well, and hockey needed it
You
as
damn
much
right.
as more than any other sport.
And it was
did.
still sorry the way it was broadcast back in 04.
Sure.
But if you didn't have a chance with those little-ass television, you couldn't even watch hockey.
Well, it was sorry because it was on network.
Right.
You know, it was, ABC still covered the games, and so they compressed the those broadcast formats so the HD doesn't come out as neatly as it should. But that was the debut of the HD Sports Center set. It was
Nice,
after
that's
Game
right.
7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
You'll always remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was a big moment.
I had summer economics class, and the next day I went in. I had the jersey on. I had the newspaper, and the teacher and I, we had a bit of a spat from AP US History, and I didn't like her very much. So I just read the paper openly. I just read it.
Oh,
I read
my-
every article
My goodness
I could read.
gracious. You were a brat.
Well, there's a history that's not really
Yeah, you don't
made
wanna
for the
get
Jeff
into
Cameron
that.
show.
No, it's not. All right. So let's bring it back home. Here's what I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you that in doing the Atlanta Showdown kickoff special show with the guys from Bama Insider and WarChant.com, and I don't want to give away all the content for that when it starts running on WarChant and Bama Insider. You do your research and you start to get locked in a little bit about this matchup, and you think about the magnitude of this opener and what a weekend it's going to be. And I went back and watched a clip. Kirk Herbstreit, ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit, has made several appearances talking about this upcoming season and obviously the fact that basically the cat's out of the bag. They're going to be there for game day. You know, Corso gave that away in an interview he did. And we all assumed as much, and we're right to assume it. He talked about this being the biggest opening weekend in college football history. And I was listening to some of that commentary. But I began to go back, and I wanted to see, do you realize that if Florida State and Alabama are number 1 versus number 2, if this is a preseason 1 versus 2, actually, you can extend that out further. If this is number 1 versus number 3, which it has a chance to be, because some people think Ohio State will be 2, some people, yeah. So even if it's 1 versus 3, it will be the highest ranked opening weekend matchup since preseason polls began in 1950. You know, it's just little nuggets, again, since 1950. Now, you go back and look, and I did, just last year, Alabama Southern Cal, 2016. Again, you have 1 versus 20 in that situation. But I went back through the ages, and I was trying to think back to our history and the years that, you know, we've been involved in these kinds of games. But opening weekend specific, not the first full week of the season where where other games have already been played, and but the opening matchups. Nebraska Penn State was 1 versus 4 in 83. Oklahoma UCLA in 86. How about UCLA being number 4 in the country at that time?
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, it was
Far cry.
pretense of suspicion.
Yeah, year you were born. 85, Pitt, North Carolina, big one. You had Notre Dame, Oklahoma in way back in 53. Oklahoma's been involved in a lot of these. In 1957, Pitt was a top 10 team, and they played Oklahoma early. Auburn, Miami in 84, Ohio State, West Virginia, Miami, BYU, Florida State, BYU back in 91. BYU was a top 20 team. Alabama, Southern Cal last year, and Ohio State and SMU in 1958. Just some of the all-time great opening matchups. Opening weekend, not just first game for each team, opening weekend.
I actually had occasion to meet the guys from Bama Insider last night at the Seventh Hill Tap Room.
Nicely done. You see how you weave that in there, folks?
And it was a by happenstance type of meeting, too. Gene was down there, and they were just...
Well, and they're heavy drinkers.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I just made that up.
They can't do a good broadcast until they're hungover out of their mind from craft
they look
beer.
great. They look great.
No,
Today they seem to have it together.
They got out
For
of
as
their-
drunk as they were last night, Tom.
gee, yeah.
I'm kidding. Sorry.
Um,
I was not out. I was in bed by 9 p.m. You guys were having your first drink, and I was sound asleep. That's a true story.
yeah, I know, because I texted you around 9:30, and
no
usually you're
chance.
quick to answer at that
No
period
chance.
of time.
I was dead asleep, sound asleep. I did this. I'm going to be that pretentious ass. I did this crazy cardio thing yesterday for the first time in a long time, trying to get after it. Tom Larson, basic physical therapy over there with the Frequency XP people, he put me through the ringer. I was dead. I could have fallen asleep at 6 p.m. I got off the air. Boop, boop, good night. Could have gone to bed. Anyhow, go ahead.
So we were talking about how this game is the biggest one, and the reason, too, is, for me, it's like passing ships in the night. We win in 2013, but the kick six prevents this matchup from taking place in the BCS title game. Auburn doing what they did in the unlikeliest of fashion.
That's right.
And in the 2014 playoff, we lose to Oregon, they lose to Ohio State, but everybody, or a lot of people, were picking us and Alabama to play in the 2014 championship. And they've been great. We've been great. Clemson is now,
they've been greater.
Yes. And Ohio State's obviously been consistent under Meyer. But these teams have all crossed, and they've crossed paths. They played each other. Ohio State, Alabama have played each other. Clemson and Ohio State have played against each other. Clemson, Alabama have been the last two title games. But nobody's got to see this one yet. Not with Saban operating at full efficiency, because when we got him, it was his first year out in Alabama, and Fisher was the OC head coach in waiting at that point.
And Cody Fagg down the sideline for the big touchdown over in Jacksonville.
Yeah, looking at the big board. He was looking at the screen to see how far
Good times.
of a lead he had down the sidelines. But here it is. Finally, it's your chance to see these two programs on the same field. If it was Alabama-Clemson, and let's say there was a different national title last year, well, there's been a recent matchup between the two programs. But finally, we get to see us play Alabama, and I think that new car smell on this matchup that people have yet to see, I think is part of the allure.
I also think there's a real good chance they're going to get to see it twice. I do. I feel like this could be just a preview of what you get when the stakes are much higher. Because in reality, I guess it certainly matters who wins the game. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because, anybody who registers a loss really typically can't afford a second one. So if you lose a game, even a game of this magnitude, you're putting yourself in a precarious position where some other things might have to go right for you if it comes down to the nitty-gritty in a committee that you can't always trust. And I'll grant you, a loss in a game like this is a hell of a lot better than losing a game against an unranked team or somebody that is not as well respected. So either side loses this game. It's understood that they lost to a top 5 team, and there's no shame in that. And in today's college football climate, thankfully, you can afford a loss and come all the way back and make the playoff. Hell, you can afford 2 losses and make the playoff. But you don't want to put yourself in that position where you understand that the likelihood that a second loss is casting you into a place that does not live within the Final Four grouping. And so it's an important game. But if you lose a close game to Alabama, let's use it from our standpoint and go negative and say that we lose this game to Bama. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but say it happens. You're all right as long as you take care of business in the other games. You beat Miami and you beat Louisville, and obviously you have the kind of schedule that will be respected. That by the end of the year, if you win the ACC and you have a blemish and it's to Alabama, you're back in that Final Four, I would say almost surely.
Oh, there's no doubt, given what Clemson is.
Yeah, well,
from a
you don't
reputation
know
standpoint.
who else goes undefeated or what happens. I mean, college football's weird, but
But you'll have beaten Miami. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
you'll
that's
have
not that big a deal.
You'll have beaten Louisville and Clemson. Florida won the ACC title on top of that. And if you don't get blown out by Alabama, that actually might be used in your favor if Alabama's undefeated. It's a 6-point game in week 1, and look at what they've done since then. They run roughshod over the ACC. Absolutely, you can make all those arguments.
Yeah, so you might be in a position where the game doesn't hurt you all that much, could even, as you just said, help you. And I would also say that the reason that I feel strongly about this being a possible preview to a second matchup is that what I'm most concerned about is this idea that Florida State comes into this game against Alabama with questions on the offensive line and a receiving core that has to get right, has to be on the same page as DeAndre Francois and find route running consistency and just overall the timing involved in a passing game, the rhythm involved in a passing game, the things that we talk about every year, it seems like. Obviously, as the year goes on, gets better and better and better, and we begin to see all of those things that we're upset about at the beginning of the year come to be at the end of the year, where there is more consistency and guys do run routes better and they get on the same page and he develops a favorite target and you figure out which plays work best and why and are better suited for certain players, and that includes new offensive linemen and new running backs and all of that stuff. And so I think Florida State's going to be a very good team at the end of the year. I believe that regardless if this wasn't the first game. There are teams that come in ready-made. There are teams that start the year that you say, barring injury, they're loaded, they're good, they're going to dominate, and they play out the gate strong. I don't think this is one of them. I think we're a team that's going to be very, very good at the end of the year and very suspect, at least amongst the elite teams, at the beginning of the year with all that we have to do on the offensive line and, again, the relationship I'm talking about from quarterback to receiver?
Potentially a dumb question because you could point to the openers in the last however many years. But do you think Alabama is a ready-made team with all they've purged on defense year to year and the fact that they've got a brand-new offensive coordinator who's never coordinated a game?
Yeah, but I do think that when you look at their offensive line, you look at Jalen Hurts, and you look at this, I mean, they go 6 deep at running back for that team. They can come out and do things to calm them down and ease into it that we've been suspect against. If you think about RPOs and how it killed us defensively last year, Matthew Thomas is running all over the place like a confused child in some of these games early in the year. Until we show we can handle teams that run this very well, and Alabama has adapted to it, and they've got a quarterback that can execute it exceptionally well, and it's not like they don't have pulling guards that dominate every year and those kinds of things. They're going to test Florida State's defense with that, and we'll see. I like our defense. It's the strongest unit on the field. But, yeah, I think they'll come out and ease their way into this offense, and they'll run it pretty well. And they're talented. I mean, Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, they got talent. I just wonder whether our offense will be able to execute against their defense. When you look at the names of the kids that are replacing some of the studs on defense that you're talking about, man, these are 5-star kids that have been waiting in the wings. It's not like they're replacing guys with players that can't play. It's a testament to their strength and depth of recruiting because every year they have the top class. So guys that are just waiting their turn to replace some of the best players in the country at Alabama are guys that are, look, I get it. No Jonathan Allen, no Reuben Foster. But the guys that are coming in and replacing them, go look at who they were. In some cases, they were the number 1 recruit in the country.
I get that. It's just it's their first start. In the same way you're talking about how we'll be a better team later in the year, the juices are going. This is your first game. It's the biggest matchup in opening weekend history in college football, potentially. There's a chance. Considering what Florida State did.
I'm going to assume some things, though, Tom. And let's do this before we get into it, and we'll go to break. I'm going to assume our offensive line struggles more with the new names up front and their roles against Alabama's newcomers on the defensive side than vice versa. I think given our offensive line issues over the years, it's safe to assume that group doesn't come in rolling.
Well, screw you, pal.
Yeah. I mean, that's the real concern here. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford. The place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Creek Ford. His eyes darted between the blue wire and then the red wire. Back to the blue, back to the red. A bead of sweat dropped from his brow to his hand, which grasped a pair of pliers. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and cut both with one swift squeeze of his tool. The boy screamed as the doctor pried the braces from his teeth.
If this 20-second performance made you feel something, imagine what an entire Audible book can do. Visit Audible.com to start your free 30-day trial.
Gentlemen, Hurry into JCPenney and find great looks for whether you're in the office or on the go. Raise your game with menswear designed by Michael Strahan, exclusively at JCPenney. Get 50% off suit separates and dress shirts from Collection by Michael Strahan, and up to 40% off MSX activewear. Also available in big and tall. Don't miss out on even more savings with a coupon for $10 off when you spend $25 or more on select items. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 6/7 to 6/13. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for details.
Out on the golf course, there are the obvious hazards. There's the pond, the bunker, the rough, the even rougher.
Yeah, put me down for an 8.
The giant maples. The row of houses out of bounds on the right. The angry flock of geese who've surrounded your ball. Even the occasional groundskeeper you had no clue was there. But if you think you found every possible hazard out there, think again. The hazard you missed could actually be a killer. It's the spot on your skin, the one that could be skin cancer. Fact is, if you're a man over 50, you're in a group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the kind that kills one person every hour. 1 in 5 Americans is likely to develop a form of skin cancer during their lifetime. That's why your best shot is to check for a spot. It's easy. Follow through and check your skin. It could be the save of a lifetime. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out how. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
TNT Supercenter is your official dealer for Mahindra tractors. They have the Mahindra 4540 utility tractor for only $11,995. It has a 3-point lift capacity of over 3,500 pounds and Mahindra's 41 horsepower Tier 4 compliant eco-friendly diesel engine with MCRD technology. MCRD stands for Mahindra's Common Rail Diesel Technology, allowing a Mahindra tractor to pass strict emission standards without the use of a diesel particulate filter. Bottom line to you, less maintenance, less downtime, and less cost. TNT and the Mahindra 4540 tractor, making the competition green with envy.
Barry knows school, he's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows school, you can put him to the test.
Spring is the perfect time to be outdoors enjoying the fresh air with friends and family. It's also the right time to make sure your air conditioning system is ready for the hot summer. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air to learn more about your financing options for every budget. Visit us today at baranoac.com. License number CAC 057652.
Milwaukee and Cornerstone Tool and Fastener are nothing but heavy duty. M18 Fuel 2-tool combo kit for only $399. Add on Milwaukee M18 High Demand 9.0 battery and the TIC Tool Equipment Tracker for only $29.99. Milwaukee's 9.0 battery has up to 5 times more runtime than normal. The TIC Tracker has a 1-year runtime and tracks up to 100 feet in range. TIC tracks anything, survives everything. Cornerstone Tool and Fastener, 580-1200 or online at CTF.NU.
You're locked in with the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
And we're on the fly, and that means we've got breaking news. If you're in your car, listening at work, whatever it may be, wherever you may be listening to this show, get ready for this. No, not tragic, not some sort of sad moment in our world's history like we seemingly get on a weekly basis, but nonetheless surprising. Bob Stoops, the head coach at the University of Oklahoma, has retired effective now. That's it. He's out. Bob Stoops announces retirement. Now, let's go to the article. Now, this is happening as we go, so I'll go first to the Oklahoman, who first reported the story, and just give you the read there, and then we'll go. And as we get more information, I'll give that to you as well. Bob Stoops retiring, again, according to the Oklahoman. One of the 3 coaching giants of Oklahoma's century-long football excellence plans to tell his team today that he will retire after 18 years as the Sooner head coach. An OU source said offensive coordinator Lincoln Riley will now be the head coach. It is expected that Stoops will remain with the university in some capacity. By the way, Riley, 33 years old. He's been at OU for only 2 seasons. Can you imagine, Tom, just an aside here, a caveat before we go back to the article. Can you imagine a being 33 years old and taking over a program like the University of Oklahoma. OU is as storied as they come, and the pressure at that university is great. So much so that a guy who has succeeded to the level Bob Stoops has was still starting to feel forms of pressure there in Norman because seasons haven't been as good lately, and the standard there is so high. That's an aside. He's 33 years old. Talented young man.
It's a good thing that Baker Mayfield came back. That makes things a little bit easier.
A little bit.
As much as you know what that kid is.
Great young coach. The program's in great shape, said The Source. Good recruiting class. Got a great young coach that anybody would want to have ready to go. He's as good a coach as there is in America at this stage in his career. Well, that's somebody who clearly loves Oklahoma and is making certain assumptions about what Lincoln Riley will be as a head coach. Fair enough. And Bob got to do it in his way. It doesn't get any better than that. That's another quote. Stoops is 56 years old. He coached the Sooners to the 2000 National Championship. We all remember that one here in Tallahassee. 3 other national title games that he did not win. His 18-year record is 190 wins, 48 losses. The Sooners won 9 outright Big 12 titles under Stoops and tied for another. If you recall, I used to use that point to make fun of Mack Brown, who coached at Texas for eons and won all of 2 Big 12 championships. Stoops was hired in 98, and the thing is, you go back to that time, and I can speak to this well, as Oklahoma is kind of my second team. My granddad went there, my grandmother went there. I have family ties to Oklahoma and Okemah, Oklahoma. There's a family farm. Point is, when I was a kid, I would go to my granddad's house and watch OU games, and even went to OU. This is there was an OU connection to my family big time, and we would talk about the storied history of Oklahoma. And in the 90s, things had gone seriously south, and Bob Stoops comes in and doesn't just turn it around. He wins a national championship very early in his time there and turned basically the entirety of the program, the perception of the program, what the program could be, was, and would be moving forward around almost overnight, because they were 5 consecutive seasons in of having losing seasons. Think about this. Florida State, for the lost decade, we were mired in mediocrity, to say the least, and frustrations grew annually. And when you get beat 30-0 to Wake Forest at home at night for the country to watch, it reaches its apex, and folks say that is enough. But at no point does Florida State during the course of those years suffer a losing season. Oklahoma, storied as it was, dominant as it was forever, for a very long time anyhow, had 5 consecutive losing seasons. He gets hired in December of 1998. His first OU team goes just 7-5. His next 5 teams goes 60-7. So he takes over a program, 5 straight losing seasons, turns it into a 7-5 team his first year, and then goes 60-7 over the next 5 years, and wins a national title. And OU is once again on the national scene. Bob Stoops retiring today at the age of 56. That, according to the Oklahoman, this is just now breaking.
Ready for a crazy note?
Sure.
With Bob Stoops retiring, here's the list of active college football coaches, head coaches, that have won a national title. Active head coaches: Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Dabo Swinney, Urban Meyer. That's it.
Yeah, it's
4 dudes roaming the sidelines as of today
that have won a
national title
in college football.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you go Pete Carroll in the pros, but yeah,
sure,
just guys still coaching in college football.
Yeah.
Well, you think about the exodus of a lot of guys in the last 10 years or so. Steve Spurrier, the latest before Bob Stoops retired.
Yeah, Les Miles obviously being dismissed, and then Bob retiring. Gene Chizik isn't a head coach anywhere right now, Jeff.
No, but he turned North Carolina's defense around. Well, kind of. Briefly.
Kind of, sort of.
The defensive line, yeah. Well, and here's the other thing we can all remember is, of course, I remember Bob with the University of Florida. as the defensive coordinator and the assistant head coach. So, and Bob obviously was integral in their turnaround. He was there a short period of time, but 96.
So as a secondary Oklahoma supporter, this news makes you feel
happy for him. Because I think, first of all, he was not – you do reach a place. I think this is true, especially in today's social media climate and 24-hour-a-day commentary and over-analysis of every one of your moves, wins, or losses, decisions, whatever they may be. We tend to delve too deep into all of these and apply certain meanings to them that aren't necessarily so, that over time you find out a bit overstated. I think it wears on coaches unfavorably. I think it changes coaches for the negative. If you look at the lack of characters in the game of college football, I think today it's directly related to the pressure and the money and the scrutiny. You don't see the aw shucks guys around anymore, the guys who are truly unique to the game and kind of fun and storied in their own right for stuff off the field and just their overall demeanor, because everybody that's hired now is a CEO of a billion-dollar company. I'm talking about these guys that are pros, systems guys who go 20-hour a day, all day, every day, 365. It has to affect you. I think it wears you down. I think what you end up seeing are just kind of the shell of what a guy was before he got into the rat race. I'm not saying cry him a river. In many cases, they're making $4, $5, $6 million a year, so people aren't sitting back going, oh, boo-hoo, name your coach. But I do think you don't get the best of these guys as a person. I think what you see are guys changing for the negative. I think it wears them down. It's a pressure cooker. And I would believe that the way to do it, at least my viewpoint, is the way to do it now is to come in and take over a program that has cachet, that has a history of winning, that's maybe fallen on hard times. Take over that program, tap into that cachet, tap into those resources, that infrastructure, kind of rally the troops, be the system guy, implement the modern approach, turn a program around quickly. If you can win a national championship, obviously, that's everybody's goal. Get that, and then take it on down the road, maybe either to a new job in 10 to 12 years, maybe less in certain cases, or just to retire because the money's so good. You can get out in college football. So think about the situation we're talking about right now with Oklahoma. According, again, to the Oklahoman today, Bob Stoops is retiring at the age of 56. Frankly, I thought he was a little older than that. Secondly, the new head coach is Lincoln Riley. He's 33 years old. I think it's a tough situation for him. They haven't fallen on hard times. But if he wins over the next 5 to 7 years, a national championship, some Big 12 titles, that salary is going to be significant. If you're him and you can go a decade and be making a couple mil per, if not more, and you win, you could be 45 years old and call it a day.
A couple of things. One, I like how you took your dig at Bob Stoops, the head coach, by saying, frankly, I thought he was a little bit older. That's a nice code shot for saying he's been slipping anyway.
A little bit.
Secondly, you have to drop the interim tag because you got a full camp, summer workouts, you got recruiting to do. But I would think that this has to be an audition for a full year. I mean, they got to be looking at other candidates around the country.
It's Oklahoma. You don't have to hire this guy, although he is very well thought of. But, yes, I don't think Lincoln Riley's top of your list. Oklahoma's the kind of place that can go out and get an experienced head coach that's won a lot of games, knows how to run a major program, has been under the lights and felt the pressure of alumni and billionaire boosters and all of that. Sure, they'll be out there looking at the biggest of names.
Yeah, with a Heisman candidate, this year, and obviously the buzz around Texas, and they think they've got their guy. If you lose to Texas and go 9-3 or 8-4 this year, I mean, I don't know how permanent the lack of the interim tag makes this move. It's hard to know the dynamics, and they're going to come out in time. The locals are going to tell you whether or not, Stoops had planned this out so that Riley could get the job, because this is an inopportune time to go searching for a head coach. If he had said it at the bowl game, then maybe Riley doesn't get the job.
Well,
so maybe there's a
the
dynamic there.
Class, so it is interesting. What kind of promises were made to these kids? How many of those kids decide, oh, really? Okay, so Bob is leaving. This is not exactly what I signed up for. I mean, that's the hard part with all of this.
Well, isn't his brother still on the staff too?
Yeah. One of 47 brothers are still on the
right.
staff. Yeah.
So, what happens with that? Is Riley bringing his own guys and say, listen, That's lovely, but that you are our defensive coordinator.
I think 33-year-old Riley ain't making too many decisions, sir. I think things have been told to him about how things are going to go this year. I don't think he gets the option of firing a Stoops brother.
Okay, well, then there's another point, about the interim coach or true head coach, because a true head coach could say, all right,
I'm doing what I want to do.
I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
You're on audition, too. Yeah, that's what, I don't care that your last name is Stoops. In fact, it'd be more convenient for me if you're gone, because that name is an inconvenience right now as I'm trying to build my brand.
You would never keep around a Stoops in that situation. It's not a knock on a Stoops. It's that how uncomfortable would that be? I mean, no. Look, it's amazing news to get at the start of the show here, and I am surprised. But there's a part of me, as I say, that all that I did about the pressure cooker and the money and to get out while the getting's good. He's Bob Stoops, if he's taken care of his money and made reasonably decent decisions, has more money than he'll ever need. He set up his family for life and their family's family and everybody else in the Stoops family. Go enjoy the rest of your time while you're reasonably young. Go get into broadcasting. He's 56 years old. He could go and still be around college football. Obviously, they say he'll still be linked to the university. A lot of times these guys get cush jobs, which they raise money through booster tours and so forth to make money for the program, but they don't really have to do all that much. It's not that difficult for them. It's a glad-handing sort of deal, shake hands, kiss babies on the circuit a little bit, get a donor to give $100,000 here and there, smile, take a picture, go home, and they make a good chunk of money doing it. So he's set up, and that's the part of me that would say if you root for Oklahoma or you like Bob Stoops, and he's not always the most eminently likable fellow, but if you do, good for him. 56 years old. Go spend time with your family. You made a ton of money. You've won your national title. Have a good one.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Blountstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Think you're not a freak? Think again. Facebook.com/frequencyxp.
His eyes darted between the blue wire and then the red wire. Back to the blue, back to the red. A bead of sweat dropped from his brow to his hand, which grasped a pair of pliers. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and cut both with one swift squeeze of his tool. The boy screamed as the doctor pried the braces from his teeth.
If this 20-second performance made you feel something, imagine what an entire Audible book can do. Visit audible.com to start your free 30-day trial.
Gentlemen, hurry into JCPenney and find great looks for whether you're in the office or on the go. Raise your game with menswear designed by Michael Strahan. Exclusively at JCPenney. Get 50% off suit separates and dress shirts from Collection by Michael Strahan. And up to 40% off MSX activewear. Also available in big and tall. Don't miss out on even more savings with a coupon for $10 off when you spend $25 or more on select items. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 6/7 to 6/13. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for details.
America's Home Place in Tallahassee reminds listeners the men and women of our military dedicate themselves to serving our country. Their commitment and courage keep our country safe and strong. Let's honor those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Let's salute all of those who serve today. This reminder from America's Home Place in Tallahassee. Visit them online at americashomeplace.com or call 309-0800. They're saying thank you to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom.
Come see the all-new Bad Boy MZ Magnum and ZT Elite zero-turn mowers at TNT Supercenter. Both models offer the strongest decks in the industry and now have a new deck dial adjustment. Simply lift the deck and set the height with the twist of a knob. Manufactured from 7-gauge fabricated welded steel with an additional 3/8-inch leading-edge reinforcement, MZ Magnum starts at $3,399 and ZT Elite pricing starts at $4,499. Financing with no money down and payments as low as $77 a month with approved credit. TNT and Bad Boy Mower, on a mission to help everybody mow with an attitude.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Hey, this is Clay Culpepper with Miller's Tree Service. Summertime is here and storm season is right around the corner. We offer free consultations with a certified arborist where we meet with you and advise you on which trees are healthy, diseased, dead, or ones that may need trimming or even removal.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Give us a call at 894-TREE.
If you haven't stopped into Tallahassee's favorite hangout, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill on North Monroe Street, you're missing out.
Hey, it's me, Courtney. Hey, it's me, Marissa. Last but not least, I'm Kim, and we're the girls from the Fourth Quarter.
Okay, girls, there are lots of great nights to stop in at the Fourth Quarter, including Monday, where it's happy hour all day, including 2-for-1 Wells. There's Tuesday night trivia with Professor Jimmy, where you can win money. What other night should we stop by the Fourth Quarter?
It's Kim again. Join me Saturday and Sunday mornings for Bubbles and Brunch from 7 to 2. $18.99, all you can drink mimosas and Bloody Marys, and it includes breakfast.
Hey, Riss here. Come join me for lunch. We have over 20 lunch specials for just $7.50, and that includes a drink.
I'm Courtney. Visit me on Monday nights when we have 2-for-1 Wells, calls, and domestic drafts all night.
Don't miss out on the girls of the Fourth Quarter. Pick your favorite night and stop in. Say hi to the girls at 2033 North Monroe Street, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill, Tallahassee's favorite hangout.
This Day in Sports, brought to you by Superlube, 19 Tallahassee area locations. Quick, convenient, no appointment necessary. Get your history lesson weekdays at 5:30 during the Jeff Cameron Show, right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
It's always good to get a tweet from Urban Meyer's family at a time like this. Urban Meyer's family at Jay Cameron Show writes, Bob Stoops' family is really lucky for a year. Then he'll abandon his family again.
Hashtag a-hole.
The breaking news as we came on today is that Oklahoma head coach Bob Stoops has abruptly retired as head coach, effective immediately. He leaves Oklahoma at the age of 56. It has that national title that we know about from 2000. His 18-year record at the school, 190 wins, 48 losses. Really, I think what we remember most about Bob Stoops at Oklahoma was how quickly he went from taking over a program that had had 5 straight losing seasons, turning them around in year 1 to becoming a winner again at 7-5, and then going a combined 60-7 over the next 5 seasons, including a national championship. So it was the remarkable turnaround and the consistency year in and year out with which they found themselves either competing for or on the cusp of competing for a national championship. They were winning Big 12 titles. Yes, they lost several of those national championship games, but if you look back, I mean, you think about the loss to Southern Cal, which they were cheating their ass off and were loaded. There was no shame in that. But, you know, I think to the game against Florida, and it was a great game, and there's the play at the end of the half where if they get it, you know. Anyhow, the point is, you can't help but wonder what's coming down the line next. And I hate that, and I don't want to speculate, especially not something salacious. But at this day and age, guy's 56 years old. You wouldn't suspect that he was being forced out by anybody at Oklahoma. I'll grant you there was a growing contingent of Sooners that were ready to see a new set of eyes at the very least. And I think that's common. By the way, I don't find anything wrong with that. I think that you can be a very successful coach at a university or even in the pros. You could have done things right, done things well, succeeded at a high level for a long period of time. Bob didn't always do that, by the way. The Joe Mixon thing, for example, was handled terribly. That said, you could look at situations and say, well, the guy, he wins double-digit games every year. They're in contention for the conference title, and, why would you get rid of him? I think sometimes it's a good idea to just bring a new set of eyes onto your program. Now, the great debate with those situations are always, hey, man, be careful. Be careful what you get rid of. There's no guarantee that the replacement is going to do a better job. There's no guarantee that the standard is going to be raised just because you decided that, hey, I want a new look for a new look's sake. You do have to be careful, and it's always an interesting conversation.
It's not irresponsible to speculate here because the timing of it is so weird. This is not traditional, the way that this went down, and you think a couple of things. Scandal, hopefully not health, health-related reasons. Hope he didn't get some news.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You do sometimes worry about that, right, that you'll be hearing something much worse in the coming days, and knock on wood that is not the case.
But then there's also because his personality was such that I'm seeing some of the writers who cover college football nationally saying he's like Spurrier in the sense that he's always said if he feels he's done, he's just going to walk, and that's it.
Well, Spurrier did it and vacated his team in the middle of a season.
Yes, he abandoned his team. At least Bob didn't do that much. But that could be the answer, too. It could be he just, at one point, he's sitting at his desk or he's on the phone with a 16-year-old and he says, you know what? Screw this. I've done it for long enough. This is fine. I'll go get a job with Fox or ESPN.
Well, let me say that I think you only come to that conclusion at this juncture. We're in June. I mean, things really start to get ramped up towards the end of July. So you're not far away from flicking that switch and being ultra competitive. And, look, this is a program that has sustained a high level of success. I'm sure he liked what he had coming back and was ready to compete for at least the conference title. And that conference is not what it once was. But looking to secure his spot back in the playoff, I mean, we've seen Oklahoma in big games rather recently, thinking back to the Clemson-Oklahoma game. I can't help but wonder at this point, did somebody piss him off? I mean, these guys, look, they're power brokers. These are guys that their egos are huge. It seems to me that when you come across most of the modern head coaches, and it's almost as if you have to have it, okay? Look, we're not describing Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, Bob Stoops as humble, as, lacking self-confidence, right? All these guys are brimming with confidence to the point of being, at the very least, sure of themselves. And I think you have to be. I think that applies to Jimbo Fisher to some degree, too. But they all really want to control their programs, every facet of it. They don't like being told that they have to do something. They don't always work well with others. Sometimes you reach a point where if you haven't, if you're not, look, Nick Saban has 5 national titles. He's got 4 with Alabama and the one with LSU. Ain't nobody saying nothing to Nick Saban. Outside of that, everybody's got to answer. Maybe Urban Meyer is the only one who might not. Everybody's got to answer to somebody because they don't have the equivalent of FU money the way Saban does. And there could have been a clash.
Let's remember one of his worst losses real quick. I looked it up just to make sure that I remembered it correctly. Bob Stoops coached a team that got blown out by Cole Stout and Clemson.
Yes, Cole Stout, yes.
Threw for 319,
with
3
Cole
touchdowns.
Stout, yes.
And he also had a rushing touchdown.
Which is stunning because that dude ran a 6.8 40. Yeah, no, I know. I don't know, man. It's an oddity, though, to look at that. I mean, and Bob's had some great wins.
40-6 to Cole Stout.
So you thought somebody might have been emboldened within the administration to begin talking to him about these kinds of things?
You know what?
Bob, I don't have to sit here and take this anymore. You gave up a gazillion yards to Cole Stout.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
And great salads like the spinach apple salad. Muffins and cinnamon rolls are also options for breakfast. Sandwiches, salads, and more for lunch and dinner. Open 7 days a week. Check them out online at thebagelmarketandbistro.com or on Facebook and give them a call at 765-0598.
Parker Brothers Roofing says don't play games with your roof. Protect your home and your family. The Parker Brothers tell you the truth. We'll fix your roof, 'cause it's what we do. With quality, integrity, and pride. Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
Hey, this is Travis with Parker Brothers Roofing. No one besides us wants to hear that you need a new roof. It's one of the biggest home improvements you have to make, and Parker Brothers Roofing understands. We now offer financing for 0% over 60 months. Yes, that's 5 years. Call us today for 5 years interest-free financing on that new roof. 656-8112. That's 656-8112, or go to parkerbrothersroofing.net.
Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
License number CCC 049350.
The City of Tallahassee Utilities reminds you that it'll be summertime before you know it, and summer's when we all benefit from positive environmental practices like saving energy, water, and money. Because after all, it's all connected. When your home is energy efficient, you save money on your utility bill, but you also help the environment because using less energy saves precious natural resources. Here are a few simple tips. Easy things you can do to use less energy. In the summertime, set your AC thermostat to 78 degrees and even a little higher when you're away from home. You'll be amazed at the money you'll save. Close shades, drapes, and blinds during the day. It keeps the house a lot cooler. Choose the proper AC fan setting. Put it on auto, not on. Auto saves energy, on runs continuously, and that runs into money. And while you're at it, schedule a free energy audit with the City of Tallahassee Utilities to identify low-cost and no-cost ways to make your home more energy efficient. You'll save energy, water, and money, and you'll help the environment too, because after all, it's all connected. A message from the #1 public utility in America. Learn more at talgov.com/YOU.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee. Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. Only 3 days stand in the way of the Super Regionals. Florida State and Sam Houston State beginning at noon on Saturday at Hauser Stadium. Saturday's game can be seen on ESPN2. College softball last night. Oklahoma wins the College World Series for the second straight year. They knock out the Florida Gators. NBA Finals continue tonight in Cleveland. The Golden State Warriors up 2-0. The Cavs looking to rebound in a major way, but certainly they have the entire weight of the world on their shoulders as they head back to Cleveland. Cleveland. Ohio State still has a basketball opening. They've been looking at Sean Miller of Arizona. The AD at Arizona says, not over my dead body. Roland Garros this morning, defending champ Novak Djokovic has been eliminated in the quarterfinals. NFL news, Odell Beckham Jr. is skipping OTAs in a contract dispute, and the New York Jets will release wide receiver Eric Decker.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. Good Balls McWednesday to you. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online. ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything. If you are to miss something, remember we've got you covered. All 3 hours get posted every day upon the conclusion of the show, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. That is brought to you with limited commercial interruption thanks to our great podcast sponsor, CarltonDean.com. Learn how to make money. Commercial real estate, guys. CarltonDean.com. Email the show if you want, jcs at 979ESPNradio.com. Find me on Twitter at JCameronShow. WTSM app, good for your mobile devices. Doesn't matter if it's Android or iPhone. I would also suggest you tune in from time to time, if you can, on the old YouTube feed we got going for you. It's live. You're able to watch the show performed every day. And if you subscribe to the ESPN Tallahassee feed on YouTube, it will populate after the show a couple hours later, I think it is, and you'll have the entirety of the show for that evening, maybe while you take a bubble bath. Good times. So there you go. That's how you do that.
Bubble bath with the show? That's a little uncomfortable.
For some people, it's enriching. You just don't know, Tom.
Just as necessary as the bubbles themselves.
That's true. They might say, oh, Tom, a bubble bath without the Jeff Cameron Show is not what you do. I don't know those people, but I'm sure they exist. So the big news today is, in fact, that Bob Stoops, as we came on, we were talking about Florida State, Alabama. Frankly, I kind of want to go back to that some. But we admitted, on a hump day, on a day that, frankly, I don't care that much about talking about the NBA Finals because it's been a blowout and really tough to take in. I do hope tonight's game is competitive, and I have a sense that it will be. It was, as a reminder, this time last year that we were saying very similar things about the series, and that is it's non-competitive. There's no way Cleveland can slow Golden State down. It's just too much offense. It's bombs away from all over the place, and just when you seem to shut down this guy, that guy hurts you, and what are they going to do? This year it's different in that, obviously, in the offseason, the 73-win Golden State Warriors added a top 3 player in the league in Kevin Durant. And it seems overwhelming at this point. But Game 3 last year saw Cleveland lose the first 2 by blowout scores, much like this, and then come back and win this game by 30 themselves and suddenly turn it into a series. I'll grant you they ended up down 3-1, but you knew after that game that they could, A, win a game, and had to believe. Right now you wonder, do they believe? Because as much as you'd like to fall back on what happened last year, Kevin Durant wasn't on Golden State's team last year, and he is this year.
Yeah, that's one thing, in watching the bottom line as Florida State's playing Auburn on Sunday night and keeping tabs on just the scoring pace. Because I think that matters an awful lot here. Cleveland has a great offense, but they don't have an offense like Golden State does.
Nobody does.
It's like you don't want to get into a scoring match with a Big 12 team. They don't play much defense. But if you have to score...
Throw it around the lot a little bit.
Yeah, if, you have to score 63 points to win, they got no problem in the Big 12 playing that type of football. Mm-hmm. They got no problem at all. So, you see halftime and the scores are whatever they are in the 70s, and you see after 3 quarters it's, I think, upper 80s, and I'm going, oh, no. This is all wrong for Cleveland. And obviously defense wasn't their strength. That was the knock on this year's team.
Yeah, they didn't play great defense this year either.
But they got to find a way. point blank. They got to find a way to keep that score below 105, 110, something like that to give themselves a fighting chance. Because if you're going to let Golden State score 130, you're not scoring 135.
And tonight would be the night for that.
Yeah.
I mean, tonight, here's why. It's desperation. You're at home. It's game 3. You've been humiliated. You've had some guys that are just straight up no-shows in this series so far. Role players, whether it's Smith, whether it's Thompson, you name it. Those guys have to step up and play well. I need Kyrie to guard somebody every now and again. LeBron's played like a superstar. He'll have to continue to do that. The big three will have to be the big three. But you would sense a desperate effort tonight, one that says it's all or nothing. Because obviously, if you lose this game, you're gonna lose the Series A no matter what. You might get swept. I think it's likely that they get swept if they lose this game because they know they're not winning 4 straight against that team. And so tonight is everything. You lose it, good night, Irene. You win it, okay, buoyed, begin to believe. Perhaps you hand Golden State a little of that doubt that crept in last year that saw them choke away a 3-1 lead. Perhaps. It seems highly unlikely. Let's get to the big news of the day. If you missed the beginning of the show in the 3 o'clock hour in the midst of talking about both the NBA Finals and Florida State, Alabama, and I'll explain why I was talking about Florida State, Alabama in a second, we found out that Bob Stoops, it broke that Bob Stoops, according to the Oklahoman, head coach at OU, has retired at the age of 56, called it a day. And, of course, Bob Stoops led the Sooners to the 2000 National Championship, 3 other title game appearances. They did not win those games. But obviously he sustained a level of excellence there at OU and was a catalyst for Oklahoma's return to the national landscape year in and year out. When we talked about contenders for whether it's the new playoff or a national championship appearance, you didn't talk very long before bringing up Oklahoma's name, and that was because of Bob Stoops. You think back to that first year he was there after they had 5 straight losing seasons. He took over. They go 7-5. The next 5 Sooner teams combined to go 60-7. Included in that was a national championship. He won 9 Big 12 titles. So this is a guy that obviously did a lot at OU, and it is odd. The timing's weird. The fact that he's 56 suggests, he's not too old. It is interesting to see, and it's led to speculation, as most things do these days, but it's led to speculation over the internet, over Twitter, you name it, people reacting to this, basically wondering, well, what's next? Is the other shoe going to fall? How did this happen? Is there something wrong? Knock on wood that that's not the case. Something wrong with Bob Stoops? Is there a health concern? You begin to wonder. Is it that there's a problem within the administration? Does he not get along with somebody? Did they have a falling out and say, you know what, I don't need this aggravation? Is there something else, an NCAA thing coming down the line? Obviously, on the heels of the Joe Mixon situation, a lot of people thought he handled that very, very poorly, and the backlash was pretty steep against Oklahoma's program for that. That's all speculation. You reach for things that have been in the news. You wonder, you look back at history and say, well, remember the last time something like this happened and it was sudden, we saw this happen. But you don't know. It could very well be that he's just burned out. And that may be the simple truth. Because I think the modern coach, and I said last hour, we hear the news that he's retiring. Tom, you asked me what were my first thoughts. And it was pretty much that I thought that I was happy for him, as I would be any coach. This has little to do with the fact that my family does have Oklahoma ties and that my grandma went to OU and my granddad went to OU and there's family land in OU and all that good stuff. I just feel like today's game and today's pressure cooker and today's media climate is such that it would wear on you. And the money is so great that you don't have to stick around for 20 years. You don't have to stick around for 25 years to secure a retirement pension that's pretty good and sees you living a happy life. You're under immense pressure all the time. These guys recruit all the time. They're basically centered around the job, and the strain that is on a family is immense. Has to be. And I think you'll see it sooner and more. Let's just put it that way. I think you're going to see more and more guys. I mean, gone are the days, are these guys that come in and stay at a program like Bobby Bowden did, like Joe Paterno did, to some degree in the college game, if you will, the way that Steve Spurrier did. He stayed in the college game forever. I mean, I don't think you're going to see that. I think more and more you're going to see guys call it a day sooner and sooner. I just think the pressure and the money will lead to that.
As they're talking about, the different possibilities of what this could be, to me, I'm thinking in my own head, okay, if I'm the producer of a talk show in Norman or, Oklahoma City, a big OU market.
Wow.
How are you approaching this today? Because you got to capture, the facts of the situation. So you're trying to uncover that. That's one function. Then the other function is, well, what about the season? Like, what are the implications for the season? How are my expectations changed now that the head man is gone? Is there infighting? Is this a sign of not just NCAA problems, but let's just say locker room problems, within the coaching staff or the construct of players to coaches? Is this, a symptom, a big-time symptom of something unhealthy and noise in the system? Or is it, can I expect my team to win the Big 12 this year,
Well, yes, sure. If you're looking at the season ahead, you would say this is a weird time and interesting now that Lincoln Riley becomes the head coach at 33 years old, takes over. He's been there for 2 years. Does the staff stay the same? I mean, what does he do, if anything, differently? Is this just a placeholder? Will they look elsewhere outside the program, at the very least, for bigger names? It's true. I got a tweet sent my way that, hey, look, if you look back at famed coaches at Oklahoma, many of them were hired in their 30s. Bud Wilkinson, the all-time great, 31 years old. Barry Switzer, whom everybody remembers, was 36 when he got hired. So that age isn't crazy. But the lack of, I think, pedigree, I think the lack of a resume, that doesn't mean he's not great and can't be a great head coach. He might very well be, and maybe they feel very comfortable with him as being the next head coach at Oklahoma. Maybe Bob Stoops wants him to be the next head coach and is saying, my time is up, Lincoln's got it, you guys are in good hands, and he's fighting for him. We don't know. We're not there. We do this show day to day in Tallahassee, Florida. We're connected to a lot of the things that happen at Florida State, and we get behind-the-scenes commentary, both either people directly related to the coaches or the coaches themselves. And so you have, to answer your other question, how do you approach a show today in Norman? How do you approach a show today in Oklahoma City? I've actually been on the show that they do in Oklahoma City that covers Oklahoma football, and that was a fun show to be on because one of the guys is old school and has been around forever and a day and has covered that program for 40 years. So my guess is that guy, the guy I talked to that day before we played Oklahoma out there, is as in tune as anybody and knows exactly why this is happening, and that would certainly inform the way that you go about discussing this.
Yeah, I'm thinking in my head, too, let's just for a moment assume that it's nothing wrong. The reason for this is not,
again, knock on wood, it's not
NCAA
a health thing.
or health. Either way. So for the program's sake or for the health of the individual himself, when's the best time to walk away? Because if you want to do it at the end of the season, that's, with 6-8 weeks to go till National Signing Day, that's not the best time to necessarily step away unless you already have, the next guy in place. So might this be actually the best time for a head coach to walk away? You're so far away from recruiting in spring, and you still have plenty of time in the recruiting cycle behind you in order to, recoup or make the phone calls you need to make, where the position coaches can say to a kid that's committed to Oklahoma for the 2018 class, hey, everything's all right.
Right.
Listen, I'm still going to be here.
Well,
no
the
big
poaching
deal.
of commits starts right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to happen, yeah.
There is no doubt. But I'm just wondering, the traditional idea is your final game is the bowl game, But unless you already have the answer in place, there's that 1 to 2 week period where a head coach from another university, a Power 5 university, is not going to want it known that he took the job at Oklahoma or Texas or wherever, if he can help it, because he wants to help his own university from a recruiting standpoint and from a PR standpoint. You don't want to be seen. You don't want to be Brian Kelly. You don't want to leave. Not Brian Kelly, Notre Dame's head coach. Brian Kelly, yeah. You don't want to be Brian Kelly leaving Cincinnati. You don't want to be Petrino.
Were you worried about Chip Kelly?
Yes, I was worried about. I saw fat Chip Kelly on the sideline at Oregon. I'm like, no, that's not right. You don't want to be one of those guys. So maybe this time is actually a better time for all parties involved.
You can always make an argument that there's not a real good time to walk away from a powerhouse program like this. But, there's always going to be now? I mean, we got recruiting, or we got a camp, or we got spring, or we got whatever coming up. There will always be, a complaint about something like that. I'll just say that yes, it's probably not ideal, but I do believe that it's never a good idea to announce this is your last season. So even if he said, even if he thought, man, I don't know that I have this in me to do this year. I'm tired. I've got a rift with the administration. I've got enough money. I don't need this, and my heart's not in it, and I owe it to the kids to have my heart in it and to be dedicated. So, I'm gonna retire. Well, if you announce that this will be my final year, you're a lame duck coach. You're a dead man walking. You've got nothing. There's no. Yeah, it's a very difficult place to be in.
There's no value to the one phone call you could make a week to
there's nothing.
recruit.
No, you're screwed. It's not a good. It's not a good thing. And by the way, if anybody wants to tell you to F off in the moment, they can. What are you gonna do? You're not here next year.
Yeah.
So it's a tough go.
In theory, the head coach and waiting thing is the right way to go because there's
but
continuity.
It too has all kind. It's wrought with danger.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
We came out on the other side of it,
by
and
the way,
it worked.
This is the only place it worked at.
Remember a long time ago, Will Muschamp was a head coach in waiting
at Texas, and that too never feels good. And by the way, I don't know specifically how Jimbo Fisher feels about it now, and I won't speak for Jimbo Fisher. I would think, and I have had, way back when conversations with him about being the head coach in waiting. But again, that's private. I just think, and I look back on it now, that's a tough position to be in, man. I don't know that he enjoyed that. It may have worked out best because he got an edge in recruiting. He got an opportunity to kind of start to set the tone for how the program was going to be run, the way practices were going to be run. He could change the mindset. He could start to kind of sell to the players that he was going to be the head coach for a new way of viewing practice preparation, all that stuff. And he had a chance to go out on the road and recruit and say, hey, you're going to be part of the group that changes this program when I'm the head coach and all of that. So we see the benefits of that in retrospect. But at the time, I think it's got to be very difficult because you have this guy you're working for who hired you, and you have to be immensely respectful of that and also appreciative of that. And you certainly are a subordinate. You're not the head coach, and yet you're being tasked with turning the program around in 2 short years, and you have to keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, there are things going on that the other guy's doing that you wouldn't do that undermines what you'll be doing, and that's got to wear on you a little bit. That's just a tough deal.
Well, and you got to make your phone calls to position coaches around the country and say, you're ready.
Yeah, and that
I don't know when, but when the time comes, you're ready.
I think that'd be really
just
hard.
hang on for me. I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah, and there's probably no good way to do it without you being despised by certain people. Like, you're gonna piss somebody off in that situation, no matter what. And the worst thing you can do in that situation is sort of be in limbo and not do anything. You have to decide to move forward, because if you're not, you're falling behind. The whole thing would be brutal. That's not what's happening at Oklahoma. It's just fun conversation. Oklahoma has announced their next head coach. It's Lincoln Riley, who we think is probably a placeholder for the next head coach, which is not going to be Lincoln Riley. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin, Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
It's almost time to spring into summer, and the Home Depot has end-of-season savings of 15% off select patio sets and accessories. Outside is in right now, and right now you can save on our most current patio frames and the latest colors and fabrics. Last we looked, saving money hasn't gone out of style, and neither have these. Come in now for up to 15% off our newest outdoor patio sets and accessories, only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing, while supplies last.
All right. Could Louis Anderson, the comedian?
Louis Anderson.
Yeah, I like good old fat Louis.
He was awesome. He is awesome. Is
yeah,
he
he's
alive?
not dead. Louis is
Okay.
fine.
No,
He's
John
actually in
Candy.
a show. Yeah, John Candy's been dead for years.
Man, John Candy was great.
He was great. I think of Louis Anderson as a guy that could never win a fight against anything or anybody. Super sweet, jolly guy, but doesn't look like he has any kind of... He has no squabbles.
I bet he could beat John Panette in a fight.
Could he beat a boar? A wild boar?
A wild boar?
Yeah, not a tame one. Could he beat a boar?
No.
It would. That'd be a quick fight.
That would be, well...
Boars, I think they eat you, too, afterwards.
Oh, they'll eat you.
They eat you.
Everything.
That's the best thing about a boar.
That's why you can never trust people that have pigs, man.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
His eyes darted between the blue wire and then the red wire. Back to the blue, back to the red. A bead of sweat dropped from his brow to his hand, which grasped a pair of pliers. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and cut both with one swift squeeze of his tool. The boy screamed as the doctor pried the braces from his teeth.
If this 20-second performance made you feel something, imagine what an entire Audible book can do. Visit audible.com to start your free 30-day trial.
Gentlemen, hurry into JCPenney and find great looks for whether you're in the office or on the go. Raise your game with menswear designed by Michael Strahan. Exclusively at JCPenney. Get 50% off suit separates and dress shirts from Collection by Michael Strahan. And up to 40% off MSX activewear. Also available in big and tall. Don't miss out on even more savings with a coupon for $10 off when you spend $25 or more on select items. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 6/7 to 6/13. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for details.
Come see the all-new Bad Boy MZ Magnum and ZT Elite zero-turn mowers at TNT Supercenter. Both models offer the strongest decks in the industry and now have a new deck dial adjustment. Simply lift the deck and set the height with the twist of a knob. Manufactured from 7-gauge fabricated welded steel with an additional 3/8-inch leading-edge reinforcement, MZ Magnum starts at $3,399 and ZT Elite pricing starts at $4,499. Financing with no money down and payments as low as $77 a month with approved credit. TNT and Bad Boy Mower, on a mission to help everybody mow with an attitude.
The all-new WTSM app. Download for iPhone or Android today.
One more time.
The all-new WTSM app. Download for iPhone or Android today.
One more time.
The all-new WTSM app. Download for iPhone or Android today.
One more time. No, God, please, no, no, no.
You're listening to The Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm trying to think, this would be an interesting time to... Anytime things like this happen, it is interesting to be in that city covering a major program. We've had the good fortune of doing that in Tallahassee for years. When something breaks, to kind of be not just a lightning rod, but to be there to talk about how things unfold is always fascinating, especially when you have a backdrop in the community and you understand some of the university politics and the things behind it. It would be fun to be in Norman today. Or Oklahoma City, just to kind of see how this is viewed. Is this something, as you said, Tom, usually I find that there is a decent amount of backdrop that the people had a feel. It's very rare that it's completely out of left field. Sometimes it is, but it's very rare.
Absolutely, and the hard part is, because we know it. We know it from past situations. I've only been, with you as a producer for 5 years, but you've been here since the late 90s with all kinds of... No, it's not even a dig, man.
I don't mean it as a dig. It just makes me laugh because I know that you and Matthew and others, as soon as you say that, go, good Lord. Yes.
I kind of did, but you know that there are things that are context clues that, dialed-in beat reporters, columnists, show hosts, whatever, they know it. But they can't always tell you on the air, or they can't always write about it in their column or their news report. But everybody kind of whispers about it around campus and around that market. So I'd be interested to see what guys know versus what guys present. Maybe your contact in Norman has a story for you, or Oklahoma City has a story for you.
I'll reach out tonight after the show to find out. As for some context, we gave you the report out of the Oklahoman. This is better than that. This is Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops has released a statement, and it reads as follows. After 18 years at the University of Oklahoma, I've decided to step down as the head football coach. I understand there has been some speculation about my health. My health was not the deciding factor in this decision, which we're happy to hear. I just say that as an aside. And I've had no incidents that would prevent me from coaching. I feel the timing is perfect to hand over the reins. The program is in tremendous shape. We have outstanding players and coaches and are poised to make another run at the Big 12 and national championship. We have new state-of-the-art facilities and a great start on next year's recruiting class. The time is now because Lincoln Riley will provide a seamless transition as the new head coach, capitalizing on an excellent staff that is already in place and providing familiarity and confidence for our players. Now is simply the ideal time for me and our program to make this transition. He says more, and I'll read more in a second, but
I buy it. I buy it because he decided to use Lincoln Riley's name in a prominent place.
That's why you do it. Exactly. He's handing it over. Yeah. He feels good about that kid and feels like he's ready, and goes on to say, I'm thankful that my career at Oklahoma was marked with consistent leadership in President David Bourne and Director of Athletic Joe Castiglione. It is extremely rare in college athletics to have no change in these leadership positions over nearly a 20-year span. I always appreciated the way both of them supported me and our program. They both played an enormous role in all of our successes. I've been very fortunate to have such outstanding coaches in my time at Oklahoma. Our players have always benefited from the strong leadership on and off the field. I was also blessed with a strong support staff, strength and conditioning, equipment, sports medicine, academics, video. Every aspect of our program was staffed with very talented people who took a great deal of pride in making Oklahoma football the best. I'm especially thankful for being able to coach so many talented young men over my 18 years here. It has been so rewarding to see these players come to Oklahoma and mature over a 4- and 5-year career, not just on the field. To play a small part in this growth is what I've always cherished the most. None of my success would have happened without the best fans in the country. I can't tell you how much I appreciated the 110 consecutive home sellouts. The passion of our fan base is unmatched, and their support has played a huge role in not only home games, but road games and all 18 of our bowl games as well. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife, Carol, and my daughter, Mackie, and my sons, Drake and Isaac. They have been a major part of this success. Being the wife or child of a coach is often tough, and they've been strong through both good times and challenging times. The coaching life is like a relay race, and I'm thankful for my turn, and I'm confident as I pass the baton. Carol and I intend on staying in Norman. It's our home. I will be available to Coach Riley and athletic department staffers in any manner. Thank you all for a lifetime of memories we shared together of 10 conference championships, the 2000 national championships, strong relationships with players and coaches, and the great Oklahoma football fans. He ends it by just declaring boomer. That's a classy and very, very well done retirement statement from Bob Stoops. In fact, that's exceptional and perfect.
Yeah, that's now the first page of the binder for this year's convention with the JCSPR
yeah,
firm.
Well
There's
done.
no doubt.
Well done. And I think now when you read that and hear that, it pretty much ends any form of speculation about the cause, the reason, where they're at, anything coming down the pike, any of that. He is saying, look, I'm fine. The program's in great shape. We got nothing to hide. I feel good about leaving it where it is. The staff is in place. We're going to win. Thanks. I'm tired. It's been good.
Watch something drop now that there's an NCAA thing, but I agree. This for
at least the way that that's written and the way that's stated.
Well, and that's so thoroughly written that this has been coming. That he has thought this out for, I don't know about months, but at least a
Certainly
few days,
weeks.
maybe some weeks.
Yeah, I would think.
because he hits on every note. You don't because he starts it with, I know there's been some speculation. Well,
That's today.
That's
today.
today.
Yeah.
You don't write all of that today. You already have a prepared statement ready to go. And maybe he was, going to read that at a presser in the morning or something like that. But
He just
because of the
added that line in there,
speculation,
sure, yeah.
he says, all right, what, let's push it live now.
But it's also exactly what you would do in that situation as soon as you caught wind, especially if you were in earnest just retiring because you thought the time was now. And so you say, I want to retire. You hear that, you go, okay, let's do this before it gets out of control.
Again, when you were reading the opening paragraphs and the opening remarks were talking about players and coaches, I thought, okay, he's just going to say coaches and he's going to move on. But then he starts a whole new thought with Lincoln Riley, and that tells you that this is...
He likes him.
He's involved in this decision in more ways than just, I'm retiring.
Well, he's handing over the crown.
Yes.
He's definitely doing that. And I think it's the right thing to do. If you believe in a guy, it's certainly helpful for him if you do that, because you're giving your blessing. And Bob Stoops is extremely well respected in the coaching community. He's extremely well respected amongst his peers and obviously the people in college football, and in particular at Oklahoma. So for him to bestow this upon Lincoln Riley, yes.
Assuming this isn't something that they had thought out and they were talking about, prior to the recruiting class being wrapped up and the season being wrapped up, could you imagine being, Riley and walking into Stoops' office, or he invites you to dinner or something, and then all of a sudden he drops this hammer on you a couple weeks ago? You're ready. You're ready, Lincoln. You're ready.
I also think, by the way, with guys like this or people in positions like that, that's probably not something prior to this, I guess, hypothetical with the dinner that would have ever been mentioned. Like, he would not have told Lincoln prior to that moment. He would have probably said, once he had come to the conclusion with his family and closest friends that that's what he should do, well, I got to sit down with Lincoln. This is going to be a hell of a conversation. Wait till I tell him he's the next head coach at Oklahoma.
I got some news. Bad news, good news. Which one do you want first?
How scared is Lincoln Riley when he gets a phone call from Bob Stoops direct? Not like somebody else, but Bob Sell. And he's like, oh, man, did I forget? Camp next week? What did I forget? What do I got to do? Hey, Bob, how you doing? Good, Lincoln. Listen, I'd like for you and I to have dinner tomorrow night over at Castiglione's. Are you free? You good? You good? I'll bring a good bottle of wine. Well, sure. It's it would be a little bit like a mobster getting the call. They're like, we're having a meeting. I don't like meetings.
Yeah, he's wondering if he's Joe Pesci and Goodfellas.
He's about to go to the garage.
He opens the door and he sees nobody's there.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you be thinking to yourself, well, I don't like this meeting at all. I don't like that call.
Is that a manila folder on the dinner table?
Oh, man. Yeah, I just don't know. That would be tough. Anyhow, the fun here is that to speculate about how that conversation went, you can take that any direction you want. But the point is, what an opportunity for that young guy to take over a program like Oklahoma. And they do have talent, and they do have facilities, and Lord knows they have dedicated fans.
That is an all-timer of a statement. That is.
Well, it was well done. And you and I have a love for these kinds of statements. A, the written word. B, I have a love for, to some degree, the manipulation and PR tactics that are used. And I always want to, get in there and dig in and say, oh, you don't want to go that phrase. You want to do this phrase here, or you could have included. No, there's really nothing to nitpick here.
Again, it's the reason I think I like it is it's a traditional. There's a commencement speech and there's a way that goes. There's an acceptance speech and there's a way that goes. There's a retirement speech. There's a toast. Whatever. They all have their certain patterns that you need to follow if you want to follow tradition. And this one does everything. I mean, this should be taught in a course about retirement speeches,
handing
or
power over to the next guy.
Bon voyage speeches of any kind. There it is. That's your because I think that he was going to read that tomorrow. That's my guess. That's so well prepared.
He might still.
Well, and because the way you read it too, because you're a fantastic reader.
Oh, stop it! Let's move a good break.
But the way you read it, it's built for somebody to speak out. It's not built for somebody to read necessarily.
It's like a Springsteen tune. It's meant to be played live. On a record, it's live. Whoa, this has got something.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Minus 3, 2, 1, mark. Release the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Mountain Dew Kickstart released. Experiencing a charge of Mountain Dew Kickstart now.
Mountain Dew Kickstart operation successful.
You are now off the couch and out exploring the world.
Roger that.
Get charged up for what's coming next anytime, anywhere with Mountain Dew Kickstart. Available in 10 energizing flavors like mango lime, raspberry citrus, midnight grape, and orange citrus. Mountain Dew Kickstart. Fuel with flavor.
Refreshment Services Pepsi announces that Kiana Redding has been chosen Employee of the Month. An accounts receivable specialist, Kiana's determination, dedication to her work, and outstanding performance reflect the true spirit of Pepsi. Congratulations, Kiana.
You wake up to birds chirping before the alarm even starts to ring. It's 6 a.m. and dawn's barely here. A choir of birds singing in your ear. It was cute at first, but now it's just the worst. Wrap it up, guys. When your morning is hell, just go to Taco Bell.
When you've had a morning, let us make you breakfast, like Taco Bell's Breakfast Crunch Wrap. A whole breakfast wrapped up and grilled to eat on the go. At participating stores for a limited time during breakfast hours.
Get to JCPenney's Love Dad sale and find the perfect gifts for Dad this Father's Day. This Friday through Saturday, make his day with great spotlight deals like select solid St. John's Bay polos just $8.99, shorts for $12.99, and 50% off Exertion apparel for him. Plus, save $10 when you spend $25 or more with coupon on select items throughout the store and at jcp.com. Hurry in now. Father's Day is June 18th. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 6/7 to 6/13. Some exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Due to an upturn in the economy, Main Street Business Loans has pre-approved the release of millions of dollars in small business funding. Your business may already be pre-approved to receive up to $250,000. We've sent out millions of pre-approval letters. We see the economy growing, and our underwriters believe now is the time to invest in your business so you can grow faster and make more money. And we're prepared to give you up to $250,000 to do it. Your funds can be available in 5 days. There are no application fees, no annual fees, just quick access to up to $250,000. If your business did not receive your approval letter to get up to $250,000, call Main Street Business Loans Approval Desk now.
800-509-2163, 800-509-2163, 800-509-2163, 800-509-2163.
Games for Less, the only locally owned and operated gaming store in town, has Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used video games and game systems. The future of video gaming is at Games for Less, where they have both the PS4 and Xbox One. It's time to trade in your old systems and elevate your gaming experience now. Games for Less is also your headquarters for the best in retro gaming. Atari 2600, original Nintendo, Super NES, or Sega Genesis, you name it. They got it at Games for Less. Games for Less, the Super Walmart Shopping Center on Appalachian Parkway. Give them a call today at 850-219-3535. That's Games for Less.
Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. Only 3 days stand in the way of the Super Regionals. Florida State and Sam Houston State beginning at noon on Saturday at Hauser Stadium. Saturday's game can be seen on ESPN2. College softball last night. Oklahoma wins the College World Series for the second straight year. They knock out the Florida Gators. NBA Finals continue tonight in Cleveland. The Golden State Warriors up 2-0. The Cavs looking to rebound in a major way, but certainly they have the entire weight of the world on their shoulders as they head back to Cleveland. Ohio State still has a basketball opening. They've been looking at Sean Miller of Arizona. The AD at Arizona says, "Not over my dead body." Roland Garros this morning, defending champ Novak Djokovic has been eliminated in the quarterfinals. NFL news, Odell Beckham Jr. is skipping OTAs in a contract dispute, and the New York Jets will release wide receiver Eric Decker.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Well, this puts a smile on my face. I get a chance to do it now for a good reason as opposed to just being a name dropper. But for those that didn't see it, Florida State University's Athletics Hall of Fame will be inducting 8 new members on Friday, September the 8th, including a dear friend of mine and former teammate a long time ago, William Floyd, going into the Hall of Fame for FSU. Of course, he played in the NFL as well, won a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. And Tony Thomas, college baseball player of the year. We all remember Tony. He is going into the Hall of Fame as well. In fact, they're inducting 8 new members, and we'll read them all at the time that it's appropriate. But I do want to point first to William because he's a dear friend. I've known him, for too long now. I would say that's more than 30 years. That William and I go back. I played Pee Wee football with William Floyd. I played high school football with William Floyd. I ran track with him. Used to play basketball in my driveway for hours at a time and any number of other things. And I want to congratulate him on the air right now. I just got done texting him, and we'll get him on the show to talk about it. He bleeds garnet and gold, and I know it's a hell of an honor. And that he's probably absolutely elated. But William, I'll just say this. Obviously, William does color. He's a color analyst for Florida State football still, so obviously still connected to the university in so many ways. But I'll just say, that's a guy that was always a beast, always a stud, always who worked hard, always uber talented, but I obviously I wasn't good enough to get a scholarship to go play football at Florida State. He was good enough to get a scholarship to go play anywhere he wanted to play and was recruited by everybody under the sun, the University of Florida, Notre Dame, you name it. He was recruited by everybody. And in playing with him, you would be in awe, but beyond just the on-the-field prowess that he displayed at Lakewood High School, he was a great teammate. In that he had your back. And I've got stories I cannot tell on the air involving some of that. One of them, these are the kinds of stories.
I can't tell the story, but one story
in
particular.
No. What I can say, and I won't tell half of what I could tell, and because I don't want him to be embarrassed, and I certainly don't think it would be taken the right way, not in today's climate. We were very close.
You sure you want to tell this story?
No, we were very close, and we could say anything to one another, and often did. And we razzed each other for a variety of reasons. And those were always interesting moments for people who were outside the group and just didn't know the bond that a lot of guys had on that football team. And William and others allowed for that just by being who they were. They would lead the way with some of the most bizarre humor you know how they say you can't talk about things that happen in locker rooms, and that if the average Joe who was in a normal work environment were to walk into a locker room and hear the way that players engage, whether it's in sliding one another, whether it's in just setting up jokes and teasing one another, and or setting up long form pranks that play out over the course of weeks and all of that. I mean, bizarre stuff that I'd love to say, but he had your back so much, and he was such a badass that you felt empowered beyond what you probably should have out on the field. And if he deemed that a guy was disrespecting you or doing something that he shouldn't, he would really encourage you to exact revenge in a lot of ways. And you'd say, I can't do that, William. I mean, that's just do it. I want you to do it. You need to do that. You need to do that right now. And you had to do it. You had to do it. You felt compelled to do it. And every time, if you did any of those things, whatever they may have been, Tom, crackback blocks, words, whatever, it was as if it was instantaneous. The second it happened, over your shoulder came William Floyd to make sure that was the beginning of the end for this interaction. And I wish I were in a place to tell some of those stories, some of those moments, some of those things that occurred that revealed not just his greatness on the field as a player, his prowess as a running back, but also his dedication.
Well, what's that, the music?
His dedication to the program and his dedication to you as a friend and as a teammate. There's other stuff he did, too, in junior football that I'll never forget. Something, I've told the story. Let's put it this way. And this isn't you shouldn't jump to any awkward conclusions. But I was, in junior football, the only white guy on an all-black team. And I was intimidated early on. And William Floyd and others were a big part of why I wasn't very shortly after joining, because it became the funnest family I've ever been a part of. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from LoCash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Marina to bring in the big catch of the day. Visit them online at seaquartersmarina.com or call them at 850-697-8400.
All right. Could Louis Anderson, the comedian?
Louis Anderson.
Yeah, I like good old fat Louis.
He was awesome. He is awesome. Is
yeah,
he
he's
alive?
He's not dead. Louis
Okay.
fine.
No,
He's
John
actually in
Candy.
a show. Yeah, John Candy's been dead for years.
Man, John Candy was great.
He was great. I think of Louis Anderson as a guy that could never win a fight against anything or anybody. Super sweet, jolly guy, but doesn't look like he has any kind of. He has no squabbles.
I bet he could beat John Panette in a fight.
Could he beat a boar? A wild boar?
A wild boar?
Yeah, not a tame one. Could he beat a boar?
No.
It would. That'd be a quick fight.
That would be, well.
Boars, I think they eat you, too, afterwards.
Oh, they'll eat you.
They eat you.
Everything.
That's the best thing about a boar.
That's why you can never trust people that have pigs, man.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Oh, oh, oh,
To protect your engine, you have to change the oil. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $27.95 and get a $10 O'Reilly gift card after mail-in rebate. Protect your engine from sludge and wear with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's almost time to spring into summer, and the Home Depot has end-of-season savings of 15% off select patio sets and accessories. Outside is in right now, and right now you can save on our most current patio frames and the latest colors and fabrics. Last we looked, saving money hasn't gone out of style, and neither have these. Come in now for up to 15% off our newest outdoor patio sets and accessories, only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing, while supplies last.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Yo! Listeners, this is a good audience, man. They send me stuff after I go down a certain path, and they learn stories and things that I like to read about or laugh about, even the absurd ones, of course. Actually, they zero in on the absurd ones most. So obviously anything to do with nature killing people, because nature wants to kill people, and that's nature's way, and that's okay. I don't begrudge nature of that. I'm actually making fun of the humans who then involve themselves in elements of nature they can't handle, are subsequently killed, and I get to read the intriguing story behind how it was they got gored to death by a wild boar. Those stories are fantastic. Like the 2 ladies that decided to wade in the crocodile pit in Australia despite signs everywhere saying, don't want to get in this water filled with crocodiles. And then it's a tug-of-war with that woman and her best friend and a croc. The best friend goes the way of the croc, and that's the end of that. You're not going to out-wrestle a 25-foot crocodile who's determined to eat your friend. I like those kinds of stories. I like when sharks kill people. Now, not necessarily rooting for that. I don't sit around thinking I hope more people die at the hands of nature, but when they do, and I get to read about it, especially if I don't know them, it's a little easier, and it makes me laugh.
We haven't had a good power line story in a while.
Oh, somebody is somewhere inside of a hot air balloon destined for a power line, because they all are. And that'll come down the pike here in no time. It is beginning to be the summertime, Tom. This is when people tend to take these trips, stay light longer.
I feel like there's a bit we can do with the summer wind and sound effects.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So anyhow, some poor unsuspecting brother-sister combo will buy their parents a flight on a power balloon. A hot air balloon on its way to a power line soon, thinking, well, won't this be great? It's majestic for Mom and Dad's 40th. And then they're dead. And they always somehow get a comment from the kids there. It's amazing that the reporter does his due diligence to get an actual quote from the kids. And oddly, the quotes from the kids you would think would make that too sad to talk about, but they actually enhance the story. Because they're usually so naive, you have to include it. You're like, I never thought this could happen. Do you look at the news? It happens every week. Somebody gets zapped in a hot air balloon. How could we have known? Read the paper. It happens all the time. Same with the lady unsuspecting of the crocodile. First of all, ma'am, you're in Australia. You should walk around armed and paranoid at all times, because nature there ain't having it. So there's this. Along those lines, and it's not a nature story, but I told you I am suspicious. At times, unfairly so, I'm sure, of massage parlors. I think they're code for prostitution rings. And I have evidence to warrant that suspicion, at the very least. Again, if you own one of the many massage parlors in the area that are on the up and up, I apologize. I don't mean to be